Some of the best ideas in the hobby world start with a bit of luck and a little nudge from family. That's exactly how Billing Boats, one of the world's best-known model ship brands, came to life, almost completely by accident. Back in the 1950s, a Danish boat builder named Einar Billing was busy crafting wooden display models for local shipyards. These weren't kids. They were polished showpieces used to promote real ships. But one day, at the suggestion of his wife, who owned a small hobby shop in Esbjerg, Denmark, he built a model fishing boat to put in the shop window, just as something eye-catching for display. Now a little about Esbjerg. It's a busy port town on Denmark's west coast. Founded in 1868, it grew into the country's biggest fishing harbor, famous for its herring and cod. So a model of a fishing boat? Perfect fit. That's when a Danish hobby magazine, possibly the well-known Model and Hobby, though the records are a bit hazy, saw the model and loved it. They suggested something bold. Why not turn this into a kit so readers can build it themselves? That spark of idea changed everything. Einar Billing took up the challenge. He created a kit using pre-cut wooden parts, a real novelty at the time. Most ship modelers back then had to cut everything by hand. This kit, it made the hobby more accessible and a lot more fun. The very first kit was based on a real ship, the Freemat II, a Danish fishing trawler originally built in 1888 in Lowestoft, England. The vessel had a rich history, from decades in the Norwegian fishing fleet to smuggling resistant fighters to Shetland during World War II. It was eventually restored and now sells as a living museum ship. The Freemat II kit was a hit, and it set the tone for everything Billing Boats would become. It wasn't just about fun, it was about the craftsmanship, maritime heritage, and attention to detail. And it introduced something special to the market, the plank-on-frame model kit. This is a method that mirrors real shipbuilding. You start with a skeleton-like frame, then layer some thin wooden planks to shape the hull. It's challenging? Yes, but also deeply rewarding, and the results are stunning. By 1958, demand had exploded, and Billing Boats officially launched in Esbjerg. That little display model had turned into a global brand that would help define the world of model shipbuilding for generations. So why did model shipbuilding suddenly take off in the 1950s? Well, picture the world just after World War II. People were ready to enjoy life again. There was more free time, more money in their pockets, and a big boom in creative hobbies. And right at the center of it all, model kits. At the same time, manufacturing was evolving. Kits now came with laser-cut wood, clear instructions, and precision-molded parts. Building came easier, more accessible, and way more fun. There was also a growing sense of nostalgia. The golden age of sailing ships had passed, but people weren't ready to let go. Veterans started creating the warships they had served on. History pubs built famous ships like the Cutty Sark, HMS Victory, and the USS Constitution right from their kitchen tables. And before YouTube, there were magazines. Model Maker, Popular Mechanics, they were full of plans, tips, and incredible builds from around the world. It was like a printed community of modelers swapping secrets and stories. Movies played a big part too. Films like The African Queen and Jacques Cousteau's Underwater Adventure brought the romance of the sea into people's home. Naturally, builders want to capture that magic in miniature. And right in the middle of all this, Billing Boats. With beautifully crafted kits based on real ships, Billing boats quickly became a go-to name for hobbyists everywhere. Their catalog exploded, and some of their kits become true legends. Let's check out a few of their standouts. African Queen, a miniature of legendary boat from the 1951 Bogart Hepburn film. It's a cinematic nostalgia you can build. Norden, a traditional Danish fishing boat. Simple, authentic, and perfect for both beginners and an old-school fan. Bankert, a rugged Dutch tugboat, hugely popular, especially with the RC crowd. Vasa, the famously ornate Sweden warship that sunk on her maiden voyage in 1628, a masterpiece for serious builders. Denmark, a full-rigged Danish training ship, stunning, complex, and a true centerpiece model. Calypso, Jacques Cousteau's legendary research ship, once a World War II minesweeper, now a symbol of ocean exploration. But Billing boats weren't just about kids. In 1974, Einar Billing had an even bigger vision, Billingland. Set in Vejen, Denmark, Billingland was part amusement park, part natural retreat, and all about maritime history and model ships. Imagine 48,000 square meters of garden trails, over 700 plant species, and 600 meters of miniature canals connecting 4 little lakes. And in those lakes, remote-controlled model ships, of course. There was also a museum filled with epic-scale dioramas, from Viking longships to modern naval battles. It wasn't just a park. It was a place where families, hobbyists, and curious visitors could explore the magic of maritime heritage hands-on. Billingland ran for nearly a decade but eventually closed its doors in 1982. While the exact reasons are unclear, it might have been due to financial pressure or shifting interests. But the story doesn't end here. In 1995, the grounds found a new life as Bornhaven Billingland, a kindergarten and a nursery that now uses natural landscape as an outdoor classroom. Kids today still play among the trees and the canals Einar Billing once filled with model boats. How cool is that? Let's talk about something that often gets brought up in the ship modeling circles, especially among static model purists. Some folks say Billing boats isn't as authentic as the premium brands. You know, the ones with the metal microcastings and hand-finished wooden fittings that cost a small fortune. Billing, they use high-quality plastic and CNC cut parts instead, and that's where the debate starts. So why does Billing boats stick with plastic and CNC components? Well, to understand that, you have to rewind a bit back to the 1990s. That's when everything started to shift in the modeling world. Builders weren't just looking to admire their ships from behind a glass case anymore. They wanted to run them, to launch them, to see them move. Billing boats saw it coming, and they adapted fast. They redesigned their kits with RC in mind. Out went the fragile planked hulls, in came durable ABS plastic. Wooden parts were now laser cut from a cleaner, quicker build, and inside, everything was laid out to make adding motors, servos, and electronics as easy as possible. Suddenly, these beautiful scale models weren't just display pieces, they were ready to hit the water. It changed everything. Some of the standouts from this era: the Smith Netherland tug, the Colin Archer rescue ship, and the Philmont Alpine ocean tug. All seaworthy, all packed with detail, and all designed to move. Now here's where things get even more interesting. RC modeling really took off in Central Europe, places like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and for good reason. These countries have lakes, ponds, and rivers everywhere, calm, freshwater spots that were perfect for running RC boats. Plus, being landlocked, they don't have the same deep-rooted naval tradition that coastal countries do. So instead of nostalgia, the hobby there grew around technology, mechanics, and interactivity. Meanwhile, in the places like the UK and Spain, it's a whole different vibe. These are seafaring nations, long coastlines, rich maritime history. Ships aren't just cool, they're part of the nation identity. Think HMS Victory or the Elcano. Over there, modeling is more about storytelling, history, and fine craftsmanship. And then, there's a culture. In Central Europe, RC modeling is the same as an engineering hobby. It's popular with the tinkerers, electronics fans, and young builders with a stern mindset. In the UK and Spain, static ship modeling is more about heritage. It's detailed, artistic, and often passed down through generations. Like a grandfather teaching his grandson how to plank a hull. Infrastructure plays a role too. In Germany and Austria, RC clubs are everywhere. Some even have their own ponds and organize full-on competitions. It's an entire scene. Over in Western Europe, model ship clubs are more likely to be tied to museums, historical societies, or maritime heritage groups. They are focused on preservation and storytelling, not RC racing weekends. And let's to be honest, RC needs the right environment. Now, here's where all comes together. Billing Boats knows that over half of their customers are from Central and Northern Europe. That means RC friendliness isn't just a feature, it's a priority. And that's why they have doubled down on plastic and CNC cart parts. Let's break it down. First, reliability. Plastic and CNC parts are consistent. You open the box, they fit, no fiddling, no reshaping. Metal casting look great, but they often need trimming, cleaning, or reworking. Second, accessibility. Not everyone has the metal shop at home. Plastic is easier to work with, lighter, and glues fast. That makes Billing's kits a great choice for intermediate builders, or anyone who just wants a smoother experience. Third, durability. RC boats take beating, they bounce, they vibrate, they get wet. Plastic holds up way better than fragile resin or soft metal when you're running a model on open water. And finally, scalability. Billing Boats isn't some boutique brand making 50 kits a year. They're global. They need to deliver thousands of kits consistently. The plastic molding with the CNC production makes that possible without cutting corners. So while some modelers might turn up their noses at a plastic fitting or laser cut sheet, Billing Boats is playing the long game. They have made RC-ready modeling more approachable, more durable, and more affordable, all without losing that essential spirit of craftsmanship and creativity. And for a lot of builders, that's exactly what makes the hobby fun. Billing boats have been through a lot over the past 2 decades. Like many traditional model ship brands, they have had to adjust the course in response to big changes in the hobby world, and not all of it have been smooth sailing. Back in the early 2000s, the model ship building scene started shifting. Asian manufacturers entered the market with kits that were often cheaper and in some cases packed with incredible detail. For long-established European brands like Billing boats, this meant serious competition and the need to rethink how they stood out. At the same time, Billing ran into some challenges of their own. Builders, especially beginners, were finding the instructions confusing, and parts in the kits weren't always well organized. These issues chipped away at customer confidence and made it harder to bring new hobbyists into the fold. Meanwhile, the hobby itself kept evolving. Digital modeling and 3D printing started gaining traction, giving builders new tools and options that didn't exist before. It became clear that traditional kit makers like Billing boats needed to innovate or risk falling behind. Then in 2016, a big shift happened. Billing boats was acquired by Vestergaard Group. Based in Viborg, Denmark, Vestergaard is one of the Scandinavia's top distributors for toys, crafts, and technical hobby products, with over 50 years of experience and a strong network behind them. This move gave Billing boats a fresh start. Under Vestergaard's umbrella, they have modernized their productions, adding new CNC cut parts, redesigning ABS paws, and putting real effort into improving instructions and packaging. They have also focused more on RC-ready kits, recognizing where the hobby is headed. A great example of this evolution is the 400 series. Billing's next-gen model kits designed for both static display and RC sailing. These kits are lighter, more durable, and easier to build thanks to ABS plastic hulls, sturdy and water-ready, laser-cut wood parts, precise and builder-friendly, RC-compatible layouts, space for motors and electronics, improved instructions, clear diagrams and multilingual guides, high-quality fittings, mixed metal and plastic for realism and durability. Popular models like the Zealand Tug and Mary Ann show off just how far Billing boats has come. The 400 series is a sign they are not just staying in the game, they're leveling up. As someone who follows their journey and built their kits, I'm genuinely excited to see what's next from Billing boats. Well, I hope you enjoyed this brand story. If there is another model brand you'd like me to cover, drop it in the comments. I'd love to check it out and maybe turn it into a future video. Thanks a ton for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Happy building!